welcome to the first edition of the SEANC View podcast for 2025. I'm Jonathan Owens, your communications director here. Joining me is Ardis Watkins, the executive director, and Sam Cline, our digital communications specialist. We're excited to start the year off with a bang. And just, I guess, first question for you guys is, what did you get for Christmas?
Okay, I got the coolest thing ever. My kids are going to take me. I like to shoot skeet. I have only gotten to do it very rarely.
Very cool.
But I like it. And they said, we're taking you for a weekend and we're going to go shoot some clays. And they even, at one place near the coast, they have glow-in-the-dark clays they'll throw up. But yeah, can you imagine how much fun that would be?
We have a huge place called Deep River Sporting Clays near Sanford.
Yeah.
That's a cool place.
That is a cool place.
I've done some stories on that in the past. What about you, Sam?
So I struggle to sleep at night because I live alone and I don't do well in the silence. So I always watched YouTube and had YouTube playing on my phone. Mm-hmm. My parents did not like that because it would just play all night. And so this year I asked for a TV for Christmas. And so they got me a small TV for my room that has a sleep timer on it.
Oh, that's good.
And so I can have TV in the background.
Yes, sleep is important.
Yeah, my mom realized she accidentally did that to me because I used to have a lot of nightmares when I was little. Mm-hmm. And so she would tell me, as long as you hear the TV, you know everything's okay.
I used to sleep with the TV on when I was...
Because I knew they were right there in the living room.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting right there.
Unless somebody had gotten into the house.
I still think about that because I did have nightmares about stuff like that.
I got a coffee maker for my office because I realized that I had been spending way too much. Like, I think drinking more coffee as I get older, you know, like it's.
Are you?
It's more and more. It's just becoming worse and worse. So
I stay addicted to Coca-Cola.
Okay.
I had to start drinking less coffee.
So my wife got me a Carolina Blue coffee maker.
Awesome. I didn't even know they made that.
Guess who else got a present for Christmas? The state of North Carolina. Governor Josh Stein took oath of office yesterday, which is January 1st, along with the rest of the elected members of the cabinet, right? Or council of state.
Yeah.
All new leadership for North Carolina, although not totally new. These people were around. A lot of them were. The News and Observer reached out to us and asked about the vacancy rates as one of the major issues facing Governor Stein as he takes office. What are some of the big things you can see?
I mean, we've talked a little on this podcast before, but it bears repeating that the financial situation, the fiscal situation for the state is so impacted. The first and second quarter of the fiscal year, 27 counties were in a much different situation in terms of what kind of taxes you'll be getting from those counties. Mm-hmm. And that's because of Hurricane Helene, obviously. But that's not even factoring in the damage that was done there. So it remains to be seen how much of the damage is going to fall on the shoulders of the state to deal with paying for. But also, again, you cannot emphasize enough, that's a lot of income. That's a lot of revenue that won't be coming in. So the revenue picture, the revenue forecast, because again, this is just the first 2 quarters of this fiscal year that we're seeing the initial effects of this storm. So this is going to take a lot of forecasting by folks who are really good at their jobs, go state employees, but this is a really tough one for them.
The story I'm reading about his swearing in yesterday says that recovery would be the topic of his first executive orders. That's obviously going to dominate at least his first year, but
well, remember the legislature came back a few times, but they haven't actually, they've moved very little money, actually gotten it to the counties and the people. At this point, they've moved some money into a different fund, but not a fraction of what they're going to have to spend on it. So the governor and the legislature will have to be all over this situation to try to continue putting the pieces back together, not just because the obvious, we need people's lives put back together out west.
Yeah.
But the West is a big part of our financial engine in this state. We count a lot on the revenue that comes from the West.
And it also came at the worst possible time for...
Absolutely.
I mean, because of the tourist season up there. And so lots of questions.
I mean, I think can't emphasize enough that Governor Stein's team is going to have to sit down and immediately tackle, what do we do with this fiscal situation created by this natural disaster. But then, we did get a call about the staff vacancies around the state because that's another type of disaster. And we've talked about this on the podcast. We had a terrible stabbing at Bertie Correctional just last month. There was a terrible understaffing situation when that occurred. It's not just that. There's so many reasons understaffing affects the broader public health and safety. But in the immediate, you've got employees who it's life or death as to whether or not they have enough people on the job. So I think that's a tremendous challenge for him. He's going to have to address it. And I'll be very, very honest, politicians have not addressed that issue.
Yeah.
It has just gone skating along. And I think that had particularly disastrous results after Helene as well. We didn't have as many people to jump on to the recovery and to helping people, the rescue and recovery.
So according to that story, since 2014, state employee pay has lagged behind the general labor market by 9.45%, and there are about 14,700 unfilled jobs right now.
I'm not sure where the 9.4%, I mean, just to give you a point of reference, a beginning correctional officer.
Yeah.
This always has struck me. You have folks leaving as correctional officers to go work in fast food positions.
Yeah.
So I'm doubtful that the average.
How do you compare that job to any other job?
Well, I'm saying that the average state employee salary overall is only 9% behind the private sector. It used to be 14% for years.
It's really hard to quantify.
But the benefits were better. When it was 14% worse than the private sector, the benefits were way better. Mm-hmm. And you had every idea that you were going to get a COLA every year as a retiree if you stuck it out. And they don't believe that now because they're not getting it.
So speaking of this issue, we also have like a whole new cabinet coming in that has to deal with these. And we have to press upon them the urgency of the...
Yeah, we're reaching out to the new cabinet members to let them know SEANC's here. If they're interested, SEANC is here the way we have been with previous cabinets to help. Let them know what we're hearing. Sometimes cabinet heads don't hear because employees don't feel comfortable giving them the hard, cold truth because they don't want to be perceived to be a complainer or something like that. But we've had some extraordinary cabinet leaders over the years who wanted to know what people really thought and reached out to us. And we worked with them and facilitated town halls within the agency and things like that. And we're open, obviously, to doing that because the more at peace and heard that an employee feels, the better service they're going to provide the state of North Carolina, without question.
Yeah.
So 2 of the cabinet agencies that have tremendous numbers of SEANC members are the Department of Adult Correction and then the Department of Health and Human Services. And over Department of Adult Corrections, the secretary will be Leslie Cooley Dismukes. I said Dismukes. I keep doing that. I don't know why.
Dismukes. If we get these names.
My apologies, Secretary Dismukes. But
we have 4 years to learn them at least.
So Secretary Dismukes is an attorney, was until this job, an attorney with the Department of Justice, and prior to that, the U.S. Attorney's Office. And then for HHS, which is just another huge state agency, we've got Dr. Devduta Sangvi, and he's was a professor of medicine at Duke. Now, Secretary Dismukes went to Carolina for her undergrad.
I like her already.
Right, but then she went to Duke for law school. So I mean this lovingly, but what is all this Duke popping up? We've got Secretary Dismukes and then obviously Dr. Sangvi teaching at Duke. Right, yeah. Got a big Duke influence coming in, so hopefully that'll be a good thing.
I'm gonna say something and maybe I won't get killed by friends and family, but Duke kind of is like the best school in the state, right? So I mean,
what's wrong with you?
I am a Duke fan, actually.
No, I'm
to saying the tremendous state employees at the 16 constituent universities.
Say that. Where am I? Who was that person that said that?
So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be. I mean, this is definitely a different type of cabinet, a different type of governor. This is different. So we're really looking forward to getting to know everyone, but a lot of these folks we just don't know.
Yeah, were you surprised, given that it's the same party as the last governor, were you surprised how much turnover there was in the cabinet?
To be honest, yes, I did. Obviously, there are some folks who are staying. I know that Secretary Cashwell is staying. She's moving from Department of Administration over to Department of Natural and Cultural Resources.
Yeah.
And Secretary Wilson is going to be Department of Environmental Quality. Mm-hmm. And we still have
Eddie Buffalo is staying at
yes, Secretary Buffalo staying at Department of Public Safety. And then
Joey Hopkins at Transportation.
Yeah, and I think Secretary Hopkins staying at Department of Transportation is huge, especially right after seeing what we went through with the storm and what that rebuilding will have to look like. His expertise and experience are really critical. So, but I was kind of surprised that more folks maybe weren't the same. But again, looking forward to getting to know everybody. I know that the incoming Secretary for Department of Revenue is somebody that we do know from his credit union board tenure, and that's McKinley Wooten Jr.
Okay.
So there are some folks that we've heard of and know, and then there's some folks, again, that are absolutely, completely new to the wider scene. I think Secretary Dismukes has clearly been around in the Justice Department, there, the Attorney General's office for a few years. Dr. Sangbai is, somebody coming in from outside of government. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's a huge, tough agency to run. So
one position that we deal with a lot as State Employees Association is the Human Resources Director, and that will be Stacy Meyer, who is coming over from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. Seems like she may have a kind of a history with Stein at the Justice Department as well.
Yeah, and clearly her state government experience is extensive. She's not only worked at DOJ, but the Industrial Commission as well. I mean, which is great. Now, that's one where you really, really need somebody who understands state government if they're going to run HR for state government. So we're really optimistic to what she'll bring to the role and excited to try to work with her. And, another interesting appointment, Lee Lilly's back, but he's now going to be Secretary of the Department of Commerce.
Yes.
So and of course, Lee Lilly had been Director of Legislative Affairs for a while for Governor Roy Cooper, among other things he's done in his past. But we worked with him in that role and always had a good working relationship with Secretary Lilly. So
I kind of feel like this may be an undercovered story, the cabinet. I think that we're probably the only podcast that really maybe cares.
Right.
We'll go this in depth with the picks,
Let me tell you, for state employees, they absolutely watch holding their breath, because you get the wrong person as the leader of the agency, and the employees know just how devastating it is, not just for them potentially, but how bad it can be for the people of the state. So the ones we know seem to be great people, and the ones we don't know, I'm really forward to meeting them, and sure they're bringing something to the table that has gotten them the position there. We did leave out, we said Pam Cashwell's leaving administration, but Gabe Esparza's coming into that role, and he had run in the primary on the Democratic side for the Office of State Treasurer. And so Commerce Administration seems to be a logical place for somebody who believed their organizational skills were something that drew them to public service. So our folks interviewed him at the time, seemed to like him very much. So I've had a conversation with him once myself and thought that he seemed very, very much wanting to serve, and obviously smart guy. So
he'll be the state's first Latino cabinet member, the story says.
Oh, that's right. And then we got, for Military and Veterans Affairs, Jocelyn Mitnall Millette. Oh. And so
she is an attorney and Air Force veteran.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have not ever met her. So we're looking forward to meeting her. And that's a job really people don't talk about enough. Yeah.
Because we have so many veterans. We have the largest military base in the country, right?
Yeah, and then veterans have a special place with state government positions. They are something the state seeks out for a lot of state government positions. And then information technology. Tina, and I really hope I'm getting this one right, I think it's Piccione, Tina Piccione. It says her background, she's worked at Google as well as RTI, International Fidelity Investments, and AT&T. So again, we've got somebody coming in to run, in this case, state IT, who's coming from outside the public sector, from the private sector, and we wish her well in that, and we look forward to getting to know her. Rounding out the cabinet, though, is someone who's staying in place. And I think based on what we just talked about, with what Governor Stein's got to face from a fiscal perspective, this is a smart move as well. He's keeping Kristen Walker on for Director of State Budget and Management. And I think that's a good move because, to keep that continuity.
That seems like an extremely difficult job. She's at a lot of meetings. I bet that person has to go to a lot.
Yeah, and think about it. Every problem you have comes back to how are you keeping the fiscal health of the state
Speaking of the fiscal health of the state, we've talked about this many times, but we have a new treasurer, Brad Briner. I guess he took his oath yesterday as well.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly thereafter, he put out a video kind of explaining, what his priorities are, or just some of the things that he's looking at right off the bat. One of them was kind of reconfiguring the investments with the state retirement system. Another thing he mentioned, obviously, the state health plan, the financial almost crisis that it's facing. And I thought one thing that struck me was that he said that he wanted to bring transparency to cost the state health plan. What do you think he means by that?
Well, I can only be hopeful that I have to say, hats off to Treasurer Briner. We've had a conversation already about all of the issues. He's was nice enough to make an overture to SEANC to sit down. I know he's going to come talk to our retiree council next month. He's very open, it seems, to talking to a large constituency of the plans he's going to administer in this new role. But I hope that what he means with transparency is what Treasurer Falwell tried to do with the Clear Pricing Project. And for anyone who doesn't know what that was, and you probably don't because it didn't get anywhere, the legislature didn't like it. But the Clear Pricing Project was simply the treasurer of this state saying, I'm running a health plan that involves public dollars and the health and lives of public employees. And I can't, as treasurer, running the plan, get the information on what the state is paying individual providers, whether it's doctors or hospitals. And only the insurance company that is the third-party administrator can know that. And the only thing he did have information on was the discrepancy. The actuary for the plan said, well, you're paying some providers only 90% of Medicare reimbursement. Medicare being the benchmark, by which they were comparing it, the point of reference. And then even though some of those providers are only getting 90%, maybe a doctor in a rural area, some of them are getting almost 900% of Medicare reimbursement. Well, that is crazy. But again, we've talked about the advertised spa-like birthing facilities, the magnificent opulent fountains and lobbies, the multi-million-dollar CEO salaries for nonprofit hospitals. So Treasurer Falwell, years before the rest of the country seems to have caught up and said, look, this is wrong that the public is getting taken for a ride by the big healthcare corporation mentality. He said, I want to have transparency. I want to set a rate at a certain percentage over Medicare reimbursement so that hospitals can make plenty of profit, but not this unknown because it's public money. And he was shot down. And it seemed the strangest thing to me. It seemed like something that, not wasting public money just seemed like such an easy sell. And it's the sheer number of lobbyists, though, that were squawking and saying these hospitals were broke and couldn't get by, and just absurdity, just absolute absurdity. So, Sam's making a face. I'm not kidding. The lobbyists ran around saying they're broke and yet paying $6 million salaries to.
Well, maybe we shouldn't be putting fountains in hospitals
we
don't have the money
if you're broke, knock it off.
And a lot of them are not for profit or nonprofit, right?
Correct, yeah. So. And anyway, so I'm hoping that what Treasurer Briner means is, hey, I'm going to pick up that mantle. And he's got a honeymoon period right now. When you're new in that statewide elected office, you've got a honeymoon period with the legislature where they're going to work with you more than they ever are going to later. So now is the time. If he's going to stand up and say, hey, the public should know if they're paying 900%, 800, 700, 600%, they should know. So I'm hoping that's what he means, but I don't want to put words in his mouth because he's not said that exactly to me at all. Well, if he does it, we'll back him 110%.
Yeah.
I hate 110. I hate saying more than 100, but we'll back him.
Yeah. Well, that obviously remains to be seen. The legislature will be coming back January 8th.
Hey, I wanted to say one more thing. I'm sorry. Before we leave Treasurer Briner, just him coming up in conversation reminds me, he resigned from a public board, Boston, Omaha, last week, and then 2 private company boards as well. And he voluntarily did that. And so I want to say hats off to him. I know that seems weird to say, hey, thank you for doing that, because it should be kind of obvious.
There was a kind of a controversy with Janet Cow, right? That she sat on some board.
Right. Because in that role as treasurer, there's no possible board you could sit on that the office of that office doesn't touch in some way, direct or indirect. Also, the treasurer's job, there's more on the treasurer, I'm telling you, than anybody in government.
Yeah.
And so I don't know when they would find time to do anything to moonlight. But I think I do want to say again, hats off to Treasurer Briner, because he just voluntarily said, I'm not going to do that. And so I hate that it has to be like a voluntary thing. I think it should be that no statewide elected public officials should be on boards. But again, he did it voluntarily. So we're thankful that that's a great thing.
And like we've said before, even though we did support his opponent, we always are optimistic about the job that the treasurer will do because it's such an important job for state employees. I mean, we want him to do the best no matter what.
We want him to succeed because without him succeeding, our members do very poorly.
Yeah. So we're encouraged by him reaching out and planning to come to speak to our retirees, and we'll just see how it goes from there. The legislature is coming back January 8th. I guess that'll be kind of a ceremonial type thing. And then you said later in the month they'll come back.
Yeah, at the very end of the month they come back for business.
Okay. No supermajority for the House this time, but it seems like they'll still be majority. I mean, one party rule almost, right?
I mean, there'll be a functional.
Yeah.
Almost a functional supermajority, if not one on paper. And I don't know what's going to happen on paper because, there's been an awful lot of attention around the fact that Cecil Brockman was
treated poorly.
Well, whether he was treated poorly or not, I'm not weighing into that fray, but he was not there for a vote a few weeks ago. And so a bunch of people made this massive jump on him. And actually his attendance would have made literally no difference.
Was that the veto override vote? Yeah.
So he kind of, he made some remarks that basically, I'm paraphrasing, this is the kind of thing that makes people think about where they're going to be.
If I was a slightly moderate legislator, I would totally take that stance. I would be very independent because it seems like you can get more done that way, right? I mean, if you're a swing vote in the legislature, more people are going to want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, both parties want their party to just stand firmly in line. That's just politics.
Yeah.
You have a caucus for a reason. You try to get the caucus to act as one. But there's always been people in the legislature who, because of their district, districts are also very different.
Yeah.
And if you have a district that has opinions all over the map, that legislator, if they're trying to represent that district and not just to move up in the caucus, they are going to sometimes do things the caucus might not like. And I think we're going to see more and more of this power struggle within the caucuses play out because the same thing happens on the Republican side. There's folks who are much more moderate.
That's what I was going to say. You could see it happening on either side, right? Especially with just a one seat from a supermajority. But obviously remains to be seen what happens at the legislature too. Anything else we want to talk about before we get to our question of the week?
I think we've covered most of that ground for right now. So
right now we're just kind of at a wait and see. Some exciting things are happening down the road, it seems like, but we're getting ready for the legislature to come back and getting our ducks in order.
John's wacky weird question of the week.
I have kind of a weird question this week. It's more of an open-ended question.
I always kind of fear these. I don't know about you, Sam.
A little bit. Kind of a what do you think question. What are y'all's opinion on AI?
Oh, goodness. I don't know enough about it to have an educated opinion. Next, Sam?
Depends on what we're using AI for.
Yeah.
There are certain things where I think AI can definitely be helpful. I've seen some commercials recently promoting AI as a fashion design kind of tool and helping figure out what works for a certain person. Like you can upload a picture and it kind of shows according to their skin tone and their hair color and eye color.
But we haven't done that for years.
So, the reason I asked this is I kind of had maybe not a fear, but, skepticism of AI, of, the coming revolution. But over the holidays, I was getting into kind of micro learning as we were talking about. Suzanne brought that up, but I took this whole course on AI, what is out there for us to use. Content creation.
Yeah.
I think there's so many opportunities out there now that are just kind of mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah. I feel like AI is definitely good in aspects. It scares me in how technologically advanced it could get.
Yeah.
And how much it could change things.
I kind of think it's going to be bigger than the social media revolution, if you will.
Maybe.
I think it's going to be.
That has stunk. The social media revolution. Let's just face facts. That has stunk.
Well, maybe
People are so much
right?
meaner, or at least they have a bigger platform to be mean.
Yeah.
Because of social media. I mean, the stuff I see on there, I'm thinking, everybody talks about putting reading, writing, and arithmetic back in the schools. We need to put a manners class in these schools because, and I am not known for being Miss Manners down there at the General Assembly. I'm very blunt, but give me a break. The way people are talking to each other is absolutely awful.
It's true. Yeah.
It's crude. It's sick sometimes.
As someone who has been on the harsh end of that kind of commentary, I can say that it absolutely is awful.
And just kind of the audacity of somebody to do.
Yeah.
You know, like, just because you're behind a computer screen, you can say whatever you want to somebody.
And especially about elected officials. Look, I'm going to give elected officials as hard a time as anybody I know, but not the way people feel free to now.
Yeah.
The stuff they say about them and openly wish them harm and things like that. What is wrong with us, y'all?
I'll see a mean comment on someone's account that I don't even know, and I'll immediately click on that profile and go and block and report them because I'm like, I don't want this on my social media. I don't want any of the negativity. So I'll immediately block and report this person, even if it's nothing to do with me. I'm like, I don't like that.
Yeah,
you don't gotta be mean.
Bring
You're
back
just
the
saying
manners.
mean things because you can.
So what social media outlet do you use mostly?
Unfortunately, because it might get banned, TikTok. I do use that mostly. And there's hate comments all over TikTok.
What about
all over
you,
the place.
Ardis?
You know, because of politics, I am on X a lot. And I'm telling you, some of the stuff I saw on X, though, just this morning, that's why I'm on a tear about it.
Too.
Well, and I guess that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. But still, some of it's not. Some of it's coming from actual people that you can verify are those people. And they feel free in this day and time. And some of them are not. It's not like, it's the young people. It is not. It is people our age who I'm older than either one of you, but people who were raised in a time where that was absolutely, I don't know. Here I am being the old lady ranting.
Back in my day,
I am doing
But it is weird that you find yourself there, because I bet you heard that a lot when you were younger.
Well, there's
college,
just things
right?
that you didn't.
Oh, some of those comments I see, half the time I will go to their account and immediately see them and I say, you are too old to be acting like this.
Yeah.
You are not 12. Stop commenting like you're 12 and you have some bone to pick with a 16-year-old child.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Does anybody use Facebook anymore, Sam?
I actually use Facebook a little bit. There's a certain content creator. She's on TikTok and Facebook, but she posts her videos a week or two early on Facebook. And so I go to Facebook to watch those. And a lot of videos that are posted to TikTok eventually get around to Facebook to where they're posted on there as well.
Yeah, we used to we still do pick on Ashley because she didn't use TikTok, but we called her she used the fake TikTok, which was Instagram Reels, which were 3 weeks older than
Yeah, my friends will send me stuff on Instagram and I'll be like, I saw that 2 weeks ago on TikTok. And they're like, well, I don't have TikTok. But that's another thing. My friends sometimes will bash me for using TikTok.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, TikTok's so stupid. And I'm like, you're getting the same content I am, just 2 weeks late.
I don't know what is wrong with us. Seriously. What is it we need to do? I don't know. We need to be doing more of something.
Nicer.
Get outside, y'all. Touch a tree.
Touch grass.
Touch grass.
My favorite thing to say. Touch grass, please.
Yeah. Go build a tiny house in the West.
Don't be chronically online.
I know this isn't the question of the week. But did you see how the Amish threw up all those tiny? That was amazing.
We had an event in Moore County, which was right down the road from where I live in Lee County, where they went and built those tiny houses. The whole community came in. And
it is so cool.
My brother-in-law and nephew went out and helped them. They built 72 houses.
It was unbelievable.
So they took a bunch up there too. It's just heartbreaking.
Take a page out of that book. If you're building a house, you don't have time to be on there wishing people bad things to happen to them online.
I have family from Indiana, and they're very close to a tiny little Amish community. And every single time I go up there, or my parents go up there, they just left. I called them yesterday when they left. I said, did you go to the Amish store? They said, yes, we got you some Amish noodles. Because there's a specific brand that my family can only get in Indiana. And I have them stock me up every single time they go because I got to be at the office. I can't just go with them for New Year's Eve like I used to when I was 15, 16.
But you're going to get your Amish noodles. Good.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I will always get those.
So before we wrap up, just wanted to say that we do have plans to put out a podcast every week. We're going to do all kinds of little segments and interviews and hopefully expand what we're able to do here. This year will be our first full year in the podcast sphere. Hopefully we can make it even bigger and better than our 32 episodes last year, which I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah.
And please keep listening and let us know if you want to email us and tell us how great we are. Just email
us. Oh, my goodness.
Give this podcast a 5-star review.
Yeah, give us a 5-star review on wherever you listen because apparently that helps us, right?
Yeah. Gets you more notice.
We actually have some 5-star reviews, which is awesome.
Well, all right. Happy New Year, everybody.
And our YouTube subscriptions have really skyrocketed. We're up to like 1,600 YouTube subscriptions.
Really?
Yeah. So awesome. Thanks for listening. And
well, stop being mean out there.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Bye-bye.